Oh, I'm Coffee Kevin, and this is kind of a take two or a V2, I guess, of the Bunn Trifecta. And I really adore this machine. I think it's one of the most innovative so far of my life. And I got a telephone call. The story of this for me is I got a telephone call one day from I think his name is Scott Mazzini. I hope I'm saying his last name right. And who works at Bunn, and he said, "Hey, I want you to try a coffee maker. Can you be down here tomorrow morning at, like some weird time, like before 9?" So I said, "Yeah, I guess so." So fortunately, that's in Springfield, Illinois. I went and I tried this. Well, I didn't try this. I didn't see anything. They 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 had, and I realized it wasn't just me either. There were a couple of other people there, and we all sat in a room where, and there was a curtain, and I heard this thing operating. I didn't know what it was, and anyway, they brought out coffee for us, coffee samples to taste, and I guess based upon the results, they were excited enough to proceed, and the original machine was made out of, I think, doll furniture. One of the engineer's daughter's doll furniture, and but it was essentially this idea, and I want to say, let's see, the names Cable come to mind, Randy Pope comes to mind. These are different people that worked on the project. And the engineers and design that went into this is a 1-cup machine, but it's a small volume machine. And it is just incredible. Let's go through it, and I want to talk about a couple of things in it. I don't know if you can get them or not anymore. I don't think they're making it currently, but I hope someday they'll bring it back because I think it's worthy. And there are a couple of tweaks I would recommend to them if they asked. But even if they didn't ask, I'm sure I would give them my opinion. But it is really in and of itself. If they don't touch a thing on it, it's worthy of being in a museum as an historic artifact of progress in coffee brewing. And it still makes an amazing cup of coffee, and I probably use it, well, when sometimes I'm testing a coffee machine and I don't use it, but otherwise I use it very often. And I, over this past weekend, I probably used it half a dozen times. So let's make some coffee, but let's talk about the various knobs. And for that, we're going to have to move to a close-up. And there we go. And I'm blocking just what I want to show you. Okay, let me do it from this side, and that's fine. Well, let's go up first. The up is turbulence. What is turbulence? Turbulence is when you shake up, shaken not stirred. When James Bond 007 asks for his drink shaken not stirred, he's asking for turbulence. He's asking for a turbulence to mix the ingredients together, to agitate, and to it has a profound effect on something like coffee brewing because it really makes a difference in the strength. So turbulence is kind of a strength control. Think of it that way. And then it's got all those various settings. Then down here are the settings for the time. And the time is, you can do it for as short as 40 seconds, which is the first one. And let's see. That's 40 seconds. And then it goes to, 45 seconds. Thank you, Michael. 50 seconds. And 2 minutes. That jumps up to 2 minutes. and then goes all the way to the setting I'm going to use today, which is 3 minutes. Okay, this one. And then go to the main shot, if you will. And I am convinced the closest to a regular cup of coffee is 3 minutes. That is, which happens to be the contact time of a Bunn coffee maker. So there's a 3 minute brew time or contact time. Bunn was known for having a faster, shorter than average contact time, which is one reason Bunn coffee makers, I'm not sure if they ever made this their motto, but it's something that Bunn's never bitter. And true. It was always aired on using turbulence to increase the strength over contact time. And that, in their way of doing it, their engineering, they were known for having a less bitter cup of coffee. Part of that also, as we're coming to learn, I think Bunn's got sort of some bragging rights right now because they were the ones who advanced the cupcake filter, the flat bottom coffee filter, over the V-shaped filter. And the latest SCA research it's done by coffee. There's some coffee institute out in I want to say UC Davis. Am I right? I hope so. Is doing some research, and that is so far looking like the cupcake filter does offer a less bitter cup of coffee overall. There are other factors, by the way, so I don't want to be dismissive. That's only one part of the equation. But again, it looks very good for Bunn. And this even though this doesn't use a paper filter, this does use, obviously, a flat bottom technology. I'd also like to point out this is fine, is that we ought to have lights on these cameras. This one shows, what does this remind you of? It reminds me of an AeroPress. And I'm not saying that it really has anything to do with it, because in fact, I don't believe this is it doesn't have the technology that the AeroPress is using, but it does use air to press this coffee out. So let's go through this and let's talk it through. I'm going to make some coffee for you. And it's got these. I have several of these. This is the thing that where the grounds go. It's got a metal filter in the bottom of it, and it does not take a paper filter. I'm going to put 22 grams of. Let me show you this for a second. Michael, is there any way to get a close-up of this, even if you use that whichever camera you want? There we go. Okay, and you can see. Let me hold that out for you so that you can see. Is there any way you can see that closer? Because I know how people watching on their phones and stuff. Yeah, and you can see that's coarse. That's a coarse grind. That is halfway between medium and coarse on my Ditting coffee grinder. Okay, I'm going to pull this out of the shot, and all right, and 22 grams, and that's going to make 2 perfect cups of coffee. You can make 1 cup of coffee. A lot of times, I had an occasion where I just wanted to make 1 cup of coffee for myself, and I used half the amount. I used 11 grams. I think I made 12. I used 12 grams, but it was close. And okay, the other thing is it's got this, which we need to fill up with water, and removable. Just has to be in that box. We're going to make a little right at the top. Okay, and I'll put this back on. And then I'm going to put it in here. All right. How are we doing there? Is it still at 12? Let me check that. Oh, it's almost. You know what? It took a little more than I wanted it to take. Let me add a little bit. What happens is, I think there's some that's already in there that's sort of kept par warm, so that it. But you'll see how fast this is. Okay, so what we're doing is, let's see. Let's give you the recipe just in case. Pretend you have a trifecta, and we're going to go. Well, let me see. Let me press the button. We have 22 grams of coffee, and we have 12 ounces of water. So that gives us our 11 grams per cup. And then we're going to press this. We're going to use the 3-minute setting, and we're going to use turbulence right in the middle, smack dab. Here we are. And it looks like, yeah, we're okay. It's as long as this light is on solid, it means it's warmed up enough. Although I can hear a little recharge going on. There we are. And look at that. Are you ready, Michael? Michael, tilt up, tilt up. You're missing the shot. Tilt up. Now go back to this shot. That shot. Tilt up, Michael. Thank you. That's it. Thank you. That's a real neat shot. I wanted to capture. You see that? That's going down. This is going up. It's just like watching a siphon or a vacuum. It has some elements of that method in here. And now it's like if you've studied, I'm convinced they looked at all the different methods. They're certainly familiar with them. But you look at a siphon, and one of the things it has is this constant agitation. And the Bunn designers really brilliantly made it very measurable and very repeatable, so that you could keep getting some agitation a little bit here, just to make sure all the grounds are soaked. And it's more than that, though. The agitation itself facilitates extraction. It does affect extraction in this. So, yeah, you'll see it's, and it's going to do this, and it's a 3-minute contact time. So it's going to, but it doesn't do it just constantly. So I really like that, because it doesn't over-extract, provided you follow its directions. And the directions are to use a coarse grind, and the grind that I use is, as I said, right between medium and coarse. And that just happens to be on my grinder, the Chemex grind setting. Which, by the way, if you know the story of the Bunn, the very first Bunn automatic drip machine, it was based upon George Bunn's observation of a Chemex. And in fact, the very first Bunn machine, which is at they've kind of got a museum in the lobby in Springfield, Illinois. They have at least a photograph of the original machine there, and it does have a filter like a Chemex before they went to the flat bottom filter. And just a little more, but you can see and you can adjust that turbulence. You can turn it up or turn it down from here. I think I've done a number of tests recently, and I really have verified where I like it, which is just mostly smack dab in the middle. That doesn't mean for a different coffee I might change my mind or try it that way to be different. Hence also the brewing time, the contact time. I'm happy to try different contact times too, depending upon the coffee. The grind, I've generally found, stick to the coarser grind. It just seems to work better. The machine likes it. Maybe it makes it easier for it to exit, and you'll see that coming up right now. Can you get a shot below it, Mike? Okay, there, thanks. That's the money shot. Okay, and you can see how powerfully it comes through. It's very little contact time is used for this. Therefore, one of the brilliant things about it is, regardless of whether you make 1 or 2 cups, which is frankly double the volume, it doesn't seem to affect it. The exit time is close enough to the same that it really isn't a factor. And it puts out coffee that is, wrong top. I have measured it, and it is about 149 degrees Fahrenheit. So the great news about that is just the very tippy top of the safe range to drink coffee right away. So. My friend's cup. Okay, and oh, beautiful. This is the 10 drops coffee that Aaron gave me the other day. And by the way, coming up, I believe on Thursday, if he's back in time. Aaron's been traveling to Origin. He's been in Puerto Rico, and I was a little worried about him because of the storms, hurricane. But it looks like all is going well, and I expect to see him. He probably will visit with us on Thursday, assuming his travel is trouble-free. And he roasted this. This is a wonderful coffee. It's a Colombian coffee, and one of my favorites, Castillo, and honey and natural process. I guess combined. I'm not sure what that means. I guess we'll ask him when he's here. But it's a really wonderful. You can see 2 perfect cups. I mean, that's really it. And now, what would I do differently? Oh, by the way, let me just show you this first. Look at this. Look at the. And by the way, you can see where the air is injected in here to offer the turbulence. But look at that cup. There we go. Is that it? Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Michael. All right. Yeah. Look at how solid that is. That means it's just really, really, all the grounds got nice and wet, evenly wet, and not always so. And the other thing that's wonderful about it is they're completely dry, which means all the coffee's been really forced out of there using air, which is exactly the way that AeroPress does it too. It's a really fine machine. I guess I don't need to put this back in here. What would I do differently if they were going to do a V2? And I've had a long time now to use this machine. I'm going to guess 10 years. You know, there used to be a siphon bar, not a siphon bar, a coffee bar in Chicago that had one of these. There's a commercial version. I've never owned the commercial version, but there is a commercial version. And Rich had the commercial version called Chava. Chava was his company store. And he had that, and he had the other one. Wow. Trying to remember the name of it. There was a Clover. And I will admit this, I preferred the Trifecta. And maybe all the features I'm asking for are in the commercial version, but the commercial version is significantly larger. Don't touch a thing with these. These are great. I wish it had a temperature, brew temp control. I would just like to try it. I would like to try this. Knowing Bunn, in fact, I have tested it. It's smack dab at 200. That's fine. I mean, that is right in the middle of the specialty standards for brewing coffee, anyone's standards, frankly. But I still, occasionally, I think coffee, it's a variable that I think is worthy, and depending upon the coffee, would be interesting to try. I love the idea that it's consistent at temperature. I don't think it needs to do anything but give you the adjustable temp. Let's see, what else would, filter medium. Yeah, I wish there was an option for paper filter. I wish there was an option for cloth would probably be a bit eccentric, but I think, yeah, I wish it had the option for a paper filter. I think that there are both potential health and there are taste differences. And even though the coffee is just wonderful in this, I'm sure that I'm splitting hairs, and from a taste point of view, I'm demanding, I know. It's just a beautiful cup of coffee. But as long as we're on the subject, and those are really the two things that I would generally think would make it. It's already wonderful, so it doesn't need anything to become more wonderful. But those are the two things that I would think of adding that I wish were options. I guess, I really had hoped they would market this kind of like the Bose boom boxes are marketed. Something where it's online, it goes to a select group of people. It's certainly not going to be a mainstream machine. However, I do see a use for it in restaurants, bars, places where they cannot afford. I understand why a shop like that's a specialty coffee shop, like 10 Drops, like Alanis in L.A., or Lab Coffee, like Oren's or Toby's Estate. I know Toby's changed their name. Cafe Grumpy in New York. These places all have their barista staff is as much a part of the end result in the cup as the coffees themselves. However, in places where they don't have necessarily a high volume, but like a restaurant, like a bar, but I would like to be able to sit and have a drink. Maybe I want coffee and my friend wants a mixed drink. I sure wish I had the option of knowing that they've got a fresh coffee, they have a grinder, and they are proper. They still have to measure correctly, but to measure it and to grind right and then put it in there, and then it may be plumbed in, meaning it's already got water going to it. It's a press button. They don't have to attend to it. Even when they try to do a pour over in those types of environments, it's pretty hard to get this kind of consistency and this kind of quality. It's just getting, timing's perfect, Michael. It's just getting into the range where I think the coffee, the bloom comes forth, the body comes forth, the complexity comes forth. I'm starting to taste that honey roast and fruitiness. The fruit's really coming forth. This is the type of coffee I would just like to sit and do. And you saw how easy it is. I ground it properly. Otherwise, I honestly didn't have to pay attention at all. I guess I would refer to this as the first robotic coffee maker. It's a coffee maker, or first robotic coffee maker that craft brews robotically. And again, will it win a barista championship? It could have been that would be a very aggressive strategy for Bunn to enter this in a barista championship. But to put a little one of the more modern cap, so, barista. But I have to say, in a situation that I'm recommending it, it's not to replace baristas. It's where baristas aren't going to be anyway. And it gives you an option of getting a satisfying specialty coffee cup, just as you could get a really high quality wine in a bar, like an airport bar. But you can't get a quality of a coffee of this quality in an airport bar. Certainly you can get one in a dedicated airport cafe, yes. And I'm not recommending this for that. I get it. It's not their market. Anyway, maybe it's too small a market for Bunn, but I really mourn the fact that they're not currently, as far as I know, producing this machine. They are still making the commercial version. The commercial version is great. Commercial, as far as I know, it has. I've certainly had the coffee from it, from Rich at Chava, but it also had, but again, apparently has limited sales, and it is a larger footprint machine by far. Also more complicated because it has more options. But again, if you start having to set it up too much, you might as well make a pour over. I understand that, but this is fabulous coffee. Now, I've been booking guests like crazy. Update on, and I'll give you an update on CoffeeCon as well. I've been booking guests. I've got Lisa McInnes from Brim is going to be with us later in the month. Laura Summers from Espresso Supply is going to be visiting with us. We have, from Tim Coonan from, I believe, is next week. Is it the 12th? I believe he's going to be a guest with us from Big Shoulders. And again, this week we will have Aaron. I've also got Mike Ebert. Mike Ebert is one of the. He'll be great. Please just tune in. You'll enjoy it. And I think if I do say so, if you don't mind my saying so, we're a great team together because he's got some wild and fun stories. He's been in the coffee business a long time. He's one of the first people I met in the coffee business. He used to do the roasting for Gloria Jean's and Coffee Masters, and so he's got tales. Just a very fun guy, and lately, I believe he's been. You'll hear an update from Mike himself, but I think he's teaching trade roasting in China. So let's see, he's coming up, and let's see, that's pretty full. That's just in the next month. So I'm starting to get some fun guests here. And I may have forgotten someone. I know I already mentioned that this week where Aaron from 10 Drops will be with us. And he's at the other end of he's really just not brand new, but he's come a just incredible story within a very short period of time. And I think it's great to meet people who have the early passion of getting into coffee and doing craft coffee, and quite a he'll be a fun interview as well. If they're not fun, I'm not booking them, so don't worry about that. Update on CoffeeCon. Well, I definitely think we're trying to get our funding in place. We're still looking for sponsors, and I've got a phone meeting coming up with a Colombian green coffee producer, meaning unroasted coffee producer, before it's roasted. It starts somewhere, and it starts in the, yes, it really is a product in agriculture, and the coffee is, I think we're also tweaking our event. It's kind of coincidental, but these are synergies. We've been tweaking our event to attract more people because who grow coffee and produce coffee, because I'm trying to close the loop between the source of coffee and its conclusion, which is the consumer, thereby creating a farm stand relationship between the producer and the consumer. And I think this is a very exciting innovation for us with CoffeeCon, and it's really increasing my zeal to bring it forth. But I have that. I'm very excited about that possibility and the potential, and certainly I hope to have some news on once we get somebody steps forth and says, yeah, we'll help you. It cost me $50,000 to just minimally to secure a venue for each of our events. So that's that's real money around the Sinnott family dinner table. So I'm trying to raise that capital. When I do that, it's as easy as that. I'll the rest of the way we can between the exhibitors and the tickets, we keep the ticket prices very affordable. I think anyone would agree with that. It's a $25 ticket. I think anyone would say that's a pretty good value proposition. But I definitely I need to get that the event space covered, and those costs need to be paid in advance because that's just how the event business works. So that's the update on CoffeeCon. We'll see you on Thursday. I think that's if assuming the weather holds out, and we're also casting on several different places. CoffeeCon, Coffee Companion, both Facebook pages and YouTube. And that's goes up and down. So far, that hasn't been 100% successful because there's some just early learning curve bugs that we're dealing with right now. But please have some patience with us. But we're devoted to making that happen on a permanent and ultimately trouble-free basis. I'm Coffee Kevin. It's great to have a cup of coffee with you. And keep your eye out for these. If you see one of these on Craigslist, grab it. I'll see you soon.